Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics. I'm Taylor Phillips, and welcome to. Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics. I'm Taylor Phillips, and welcome to Taylor's Detroit Sports, episode 80, on Spreaker and on iHeartRadio. Tonight we're going to talk about Norwegian kicking sensation Havard, Kickalicious Rugland visiting with the Lions. He tried out last year but didn't get enough training, so the Lions released him that year. We'll touch a bit on the Nick Fairley injury. Plus, Spartan Basketball freshman power forward Javon Bess will miss at least a month, and the Red Wings as well. First off, a little story about Mr. Rugland's visit. Written by Josh Katzenstein from the Detroit News. From Bagshot, England. The Lions welcomed a special guest at their final practice outside of London on Friday. Havard Rugland, better known as Kickalicious, visited practice at the Penny Hill Park Hotel on Friday before the Lions headed to a new hotel in London for the next 2 nights. Kickalicious said, "It's always nice to meet old friends," quote unquote. The Norwegian Rugland, at age 30, spent the 2013 off-season with the Lions, losing the kicker competition to veteran David Akers in training camp. Obviously, although he had never played football, the Lions signed Rugland after seeing the precision with which he kicked on a trick shot video that made him a YouTube sensation. In 3 exhibition games with the Lions, Rugland was 3 for 3 on field goals with a long of 50 yards, but his lack of football training led the Lions to cut him. But Rugland hasn't given up on his dream of playing in the NFL, so he's continuing to fine-tune his kicking in Norway. Of course, it's harder to find places with goalposts outside of the United States. When you're in Norway, he said, you've got to be a little bit more creative. During the summer, there's a field in my town with a goalpost, so that's a perfect deal. Otherwise, I just put up something to visualize it. Quote unquote. Rugland, who earned endorsement deals with Pepsi and Gillette since his cup of coffee in the NFL, plans to attend Sunday's game between the Lions and Atlanta Falcons at Wembley Stadium. The Lions came back to win 22-21 on a game-winning 48-yard field goal by Matt Prater, who went 3 for 3, speaking of going 3 for 3, after being down 21-0 at halftime. Even though the Lions released Kickalicious, he said he's been a fan of the team since it gave him a chance. He said, "I'm excited for the game. I've been watching every Lions game, especially the last one was pretty sick," which was against the New Orleans Saints, the one before that, the last one. "That was the best game I ever watched," unquote, quote unquote. Rugland had never even worn a football helmet before joining the Lions, who signed him in April 2013. After the Lions released him in August, he had a workout with the Green Bay Packers. The Cleveland Browns also gave him a tryout before the Lions signed him. On Friday, Rugland spoke with several players, including punter Sam Martin and kicker Matt Prater, as well as special teams coach John Bonamego. Now he's just waiting for another chance to impress an NFL team. He said, one last statement, quote, "You can't plan in this business, so I'm just going to be ready if an opportunity comes," quote unquote. I think the Lions should give Kickalicious another opportunity. They should train him more. They should give him more training. I mean, he's got the skill and accuracy and all that. But last year, then Lions head coach Jim Schwartz and his coaching staff refused to train Kickalicious, and they released him. They must have thought Norwegians, for example, were illegal in this country. I don't even know. Because I think Jim Schwartz is just a southern hillbilly prick. He wanted Kickalicious off the team because he wanted the Lions to lose. But now that the Lions have new and current head coach Jim Caldwell and his new coaching staff here in 2014, if Caldwell welcomed in Kickalicious, he would give him more training and keep working with him until he gets at least a backup spot, and maybe, just maybe, the number one spot. See, Matt Prater went 3 for 3 yesterday morning. But the first 2 field goals were easy. And the third one had to be redone because of a delay of game penalty. Because see the discounted attempt, the discounted third field goal attempt was botched completely, not only by Prater, but the snapper and the holder, Sam Martin. So it's half of Matt Prater's fault and half of the snapper and half of the snapper's fault. There was nothing Sam Martin could do. It was none of Sam Martin's fault at all. Once there's a bad snap, as a kicker, you got to keep your eyes on that ball and be more patient. Be at least a little more patient with the ball before you kick it. It doesn't matter if the defensive front comes over there, comes here to block the kick. Just be more patient and just kick it more accurately. That's the key. Let me take a look at the stats. All right. Matt Prater is 5 for 7 in field goal attempts since the Lions signed him. See, in his first game, Prater was only 1 for 3. With a 52-yarder. And then at home against New Orleans, his first game was in Minnesota, by the way. The game at home and against New Orleans, he was 1 for 1, but only with a 21-yard field goal. And then there's the 3-point, and then there's the 3 for 3 performance against Atlanta. Like that I just talked about a few minutes ago. The first two were from 22 and 21 or 20 like that, or 20 somewhere around there. 20. Prater has hit mostly the short field goals, and sometimes has hit the long, and has hit only some of the longer ones, and still has missed a couple of the long ones. He is 8 for 8 out of extra point attempts. So, but that's not the concern. That's no concern at all. The field goal kicking is much more of a concern for the Lions right now. Prater's not too horrible, but I'd say, to say the least, average at best. And so I was thinking, what if the Lions, for now, kept Matthew Prater as their number one quarterback and signed Havard Kickalicious Rugland as their backup? You got to reinstate Kickalicious first, and then train him, and keep working with him. And then maybe, just maybe, Kickalicious would get the number one spot. See, Prater is a veteran. He started his NFL career with the Falcons in 2007. And then he played 7 seasons with the Denver Broncos. Before coming to Detroit, the Broncos released him. Prater's longest was from 64 yards out. But after the 2013 season, Prater had been dealing with alcohol issues. like I talked about before, and since then, Prater's since then, when he came to Detroit, he was kind of sluggish. I was thinking the Lions should have reinstated Havard, Kickalicious, Rugland, Havard, Kickalicious, Rugland, and re-sign him as the number one kicker. After dumping Nate Freeze, who was horrendous, as was Alex Henry after him. They dumped Henry as well. So the Lions decided to go to turn to Matt Prater instead. Speaking of the Lions, they have the bye week next Sunday before taking on the Miami Dolphins at Ford Field at 1 o'clock on CBS the Sunday thereafter. And with that bye week, although the Lions won't be able to win because they're not playing, that gives most of their injured players, which include Calvin Johnson, Reggie Bush, wide receiver Calvin Megatron Johnson, wide receiver Reggie Bush, and tight ends Brandon Pettigrew, Joseph Fourier, and draft pick Eric Ebron, the number 10. The 10th overall pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, all the time to heal. Because the Lions desperately need them back. I don't see any of those players on the injured reserve list. They already suspended C.J. Mosley for 2 games, including the one from yesterday, for violating team rules by detrimental conduct. By detrimental conduct. The Lions are 6-2 overall and unbeaten in NFC North Conference action. Speaking of injuries, they lost Nick Fairley, their defensive tackle, to a serious knee injury, and he will be out 4 to 5 weeks. It has been confirmed by thescore.com that it is true, so the Lions will have to either call a defensive tackle up from the practice squad if Xavier Proctor is not injured. The North Carolina Central graduate. The North Carolina Central graduate. a good thing the Lions have won without Calvin Johnson and Reggie Bush the last 2 games. See, they have Golden Tate, Corey Fuller. They both have stepped up. Jeremy Ross has as well. Joyce Bell. But again, I think they should get Johnson, Bush, Fourier, Pettigrew, and Ebron all back before week 10 against the Fish. Also, speaking of injuries, we turn to Michigan State Spartans Basketball. Their freshman power forward, Javon Bess, will miss at least a month due to a foot injury. The university announced today that Bess will have surgery tomorrow to repair the 5th metatarsal on his right foot. The Spartans basketball team opened their season on November 14th at Navy against the Midshipmen. They play November 18th against the Duke Blue Devils. Spartans played in the Orlando Classic November 27th through the 30th in Florida, right around the time that Bess could return. His injury makes it more likely that fellow freshman Marvin Clark Jr. will have a significant role right away. So there goes that. On to Red Wings hockey. The Red Wings aim to be more aggressive on the power play, and Mike Babcock, their head coach, considers personnel changes. That article written by Ansar Khan from MLive.com. He said, Khan wrote that there's some urgency to fix a power play that's gone 2 for 30, 6.7% in 8 games. After Sunday's practice, following their 4-2 loss at Philadelphia Saturday, the head coach Mike Babcock and captain left winger Henrik Zetterberg. Mike Babcock and Henrik Zetterberg said they need to be more aggressive on a power play that has failed to convert on its last 20 opportunities. Head coach Mike Babcock said, "We've got to attack. We've got to attack the net, but in order to attack the net, you've got to trust you'll get it back. You've got to trust you'll win face-offs. So we just got to start attacking the net. We're going to go through all the details of the power play. We talked about it this morning, we're going to get a fresh start. We've got 74 games left, so let's make sure it's at the top of the league, quote unquote. Babcock said he'll probably move some personnel around, but declined to elaborate. He says he'll have until tomorrow to decide. And the top unit the past 2 games has featured Zetterberg, Pavel Datsyuk, Tomas Jurko, Darren Helm, the net front, and Nicholas Kronwall, one of their defensemen. The second unit has consisted of Gustav Nyquist, Tomas Tatar, Andrei Nestrashil, Riley Shahan, their net front, and Danny DeKaiser, their defenseman. Getting Johan Franzen back would help, but he hasn't practiced in more than a week due to a groin issue. Babcock has expressed reluctance to use Brendan Smith on the power play, so aside from shuffling the current units, about the only change he might make would be to utilize Justin Abdelkader as a net front presence and puck retriever as they had before. Or they could insert center Stephen Weiss into the lineup. He's been a healthy scratch in all but one game. I don't understand. That's crazy. I don't understand why the Red Wings are not using Stephen Weiss. They got to work with him more. They got to work with all players. All teams have to work with all of their players, each and every single team, whether it's pro or college or high school. It doesn't matter. Work with all of your players, each and every single player. It's that simple. There's no excuse for boycotting one of your players. There is no excuse for a coaching staff to boycott one of their players when he is still on your roster. On their roster. Babcock says he's not considering going back to a traditional format with 2 defensemen. They've been using 1 D-man and 4 forwards in sort of a diamond formation. Captain Henrik Zetterberg said, if you look around the league, there's not a lot of teams that don't have that system, so it's proven that it's working. Just got to get it going. Quote unquote. Quote unquote. The Red Wings have registered only 35 shots on 30 power plays. Their average of 1.17 shots per power play ranks 27th in the league. Zetterberg also said, you've got to attack more. We're too careful. We're afraid of losing the puck, so we're not shooting. We have to shoot, and when the goalie makes the save, we have to retrieve the pucks. Quote unquote. More on Johan Franzen. He hasn't practiced in